Welcome, everybody. Another edition of the Goldie on Ice podcast. Another Stanley Cup edition for the third straight year. Time of recording, the Panthers just wrapped up their final practice in South Florida before they head out to Edmonton for Wednesday night's game number one. The Oilers this year have the home ice advantage. Panthers beat them in 7 last year. Truly incredible. The Panthers, no matter how long the series goes, will play the most games over a 3-year period in NHL history. If the series goes 5 games, and Sam Reinhart and Gustav Forsling play in all 5, they will tie the record for the most games played over 3 years in NHL history. And obviously, if it goes to a 6th game or beyond, those guys would set the record for the most NHL games ever played over a 3-year period. What the Panthers are doing in this era, salary cap, player movement, 82-game schedule, is, well, it's literally unprecedented. It just doesn't happen. So it's been truly remarkable to watch a team that the human element of being even a little bit satisfied never creeps in there. Now, I know there's some, changes every year. So you've had a number of new players each year. And, some of them, especially last year, played some real key roles. Of course, Seth Jones is doing that this year. So is Nate Schmidt. And obviously, so is Brad Marchand now. But they've got some new players who are hungry. Not that the other guys aren't. They still are. But even with that said, to not, again, with the human element of just, the desperation needed and the intensity needed to win and keep doing what they're doing, you would think at some point, subconsciously, hey, this is too hard. We won it. And none of that has been there throughout this season. That is one of the more incredible parts of this run, no matter how it ends up. So 3 straight Stanley Cup Finals, a great accomplishment. Obviously, they don't look at it that way. They look at it as we need to win it. The Oilers, you have to think they're looking at it the same way. Again, Game 7 last year is a 2-1 game. Sam Reinhart scores the goal. Oilers came close a couple of times to getting that Game 7 tied. Remember, Edmonton actually scored first in Game 7 as well. And that just shows you the mental fortitude that this team has. Down 0-2 after 2 games in Toronto. There was absolutely no wavering. I know the fans get concerned every time they lose one playoff game, but hey, they've lost 5 playoff games, this year. And, 3 of them were when they had series leads. Now, against Tampa and Carolina, a little different than Toronto because Tampa, you had a 2-game cushion, if you want to call it that. I'm not sure you can in the playoffs, but I'll call it that. And Carolina, you had a 3-game cushion. So Toronto, but after the first 2 games, they lost Game 6. There was no cushion. You were going to Game 7, but they weren't fazed by it. And they look at these series as, we're going 7. If someone tells us to stop playing because we won enough of them, that's fine. So it is a fascinating rematch. I will tell you this, not great news if you believe in history, but the last few times there's been rematches, the team that lost the first time won the second time. I'm not sure any of that in any way is really relevant. And, when the Oilers 40 years ago, ironically enough, lost to the Islanders and then came back and beat them, that was the changing of the guard that you could kind of see happening. The Islanders had won 4 in a row. They had been really good for a decade with many of their core players, from the 70s into the 80s. And you kind of figured, hey, it's Gretzky's time with all those great Edmonton teams, and then they took off. So you can kind of see the handwriting, on the wall in that one. Then the Pittsburgh, Detroit, in the late first decade of the 2000s, I look at it as toss-ups, so that's the one that would probably be similar to this one. Although you look at the Red Wings and you would say, hey, again, towards the tail end. They had been good for, 15 years or 13 years at that point. So that would be the one difference. The Panthers' window is absolutely wide open. They're not at the end of anything in this rematch. I think Edmonton's playing better defensive hockey than they have before. But again, it's another series where, and the Florida Panthers have won 10 of their last 11. The only loss being Vegas in the Cup Final where, I'm not taking it away from Vegas. They won it fair and square. They were the best team that year. But the Panthers are just too, beat up and not quite deep enough, especially with size down lower in their lineup to win that series. So that's the only series they've lost over 3 years. Winning 10 of 11 is incredible. Paul Maurice, in his first 3 years with the Panthers, 10 series wins. That ties an NHL record, so he could set the NHL record. But I think it's a great competition this series. McDavid and Draisaitl, as we know from last year, world-class players. Can the Panthers do enough? You don't have to win. You don't have to go 4-0. You have to go 4-3. Until someone proves they can knock this team off from the goaltender on out. I know a lot of people are picking Edmonton, but that's meaningless to me. Everybody picked Tampa also, and how'd that turn out? Wasn't even close. So I do believe, and it's incredible for me to say it as long as I've been around here, I do believe we're going to have back-to-back championships with the Florida Panthers and in South Florida. I mean, just incredible that they're even there 3 in a row and won it once. And, I remember when they won it last year, I had that feeling. It was great to see, happy for all the fans and everybody else as well. But it's like, okay, enjoy it. Because this is once in a lifetime. Like this day and age in the NHL, you can't go back and do it again. You got to play 100+ games. Yet, here this team is. One update from you for practice. Jesper Boquist was skating with Sturm and Gadjevich, Nosek and Gadjevich today. Sturm and Samoskevich appear to be the extra forwards because A.J. Greer did not practice again. So hopefully, at some point Greer is ready. But hey, Jesper Boquist, whether it's first line, whether it's fourth line, he has done a great job for this team all season long. And he's got the wheels. He's got some skill. He finishes his checks. So if he does end up playing in game number 1, which you would think since Greer hasn't practiced and the team will not practice the day before the game, they'll practice, obviously, a morning skate, optional always. So I would assume Boquist gets in there. So we'll have more on the matchups when we hit Edmonton in about 24 hours. Again, at the time of the recording. Once again, you can support Goldie's Gang. Let's Go Homebaby.shop. You got the cool T-shirts and the coffee mugs and stuff. So if you want to check it out on there. And make sure you follow me on all my social media channels. We're doing a ton of work with Script Sports and WPTV, WSFL. We always watch the games. South Florida's 9 in Palm Beach, and over on the west coast of Florida, Laugh TV. We have pregame shows every game during the Stanley Cup Final on Script Sports, starting at 7:30. So we got 30 minutes before the game. Then you can always flip over and watch the game on TNT is the broadcast. And also make sure you follow the Panthers on all of their social media channels. On the Panthers YouTube, you got a full Stanley Cup preview from myself and Randy Moeller, so we break down the matchup, and that's a little bit of a house cleaning for you. All right, everybody, listen. We'll talk to you soon here on the Goalie on Ice podcast, and we will see you on Script Sports on TV before every game, starting with Game 1 Wednesday at 7:30 p.m.